Hello everyone. There we go. There it is. Sorry for the late start to the stream. We've had to restart the lobby because of connection problems. So, um, yeah, the whole qualifying and race thing is going to start late, unfortunately, this week. Um, Not really great, but we do have a new lobby sorted. 13 drivers in here at the moment. Hopefully, a couple more on the way. I think everyone's got the message that there's a new lobby. They were all pinged. We only have 15 drivers apparently. Hold on. Let's see what's going on. Talpiz is getting... no, that's not the issue. The NAT type won't be the issue, Talpiz. Let's just send him an invite, see if he can get this one to work. Are we going to have to make another lobby? I think there's going to be another new lobby. This isn't going to go well. We do now have 15 drivers here. Yeah. I seriously doubt it's NAT type that's causing the issue here though. Right. Do have a plan, and if it doesn't work we'll just use this lobby. If it does, we'll all end up in another new lobby. So sorry for the wait everyone, but technical issues and F1 are unfortunately a bit of a iconic duo. This game is not very well optimized, especially the multiplayer. In all honesty, hopefully we get a better experience next game, which is coming out July. It definitely helps with league racing. To be fair, if they sorted out the whole leagues system, that would eliminate most of these problems. Because leagues at the moment isn't used by any actual leagues because it doesn't have all the features you need. It doesn't let reserves score their own points or score points for a constructor that they drive in. So, you know, you can't really use reserves, unfortunately, or at least properly. Just dumb stuff like that. But yeah, just have to deal with what we got. Right. Oh, and this week we actually have the interview lounge back. Apparently it has been going the whole time, but I wasn't able to see it. I'm now able to see it for this week, so yeah. What's that? Okay, he's in, it worked. So we're all going to another new lobby. Should be the last one, hopefully. I mean, with so little drivers, it's a bit silly. Like, to not try and get one more guy in, you know? I think we only had 15 in this lobby. If we can get 16, that's just better. Hopefully I can get an invite. No assists. Still quite a few of us in here. Oh, and ALR have liked the thing on Twitter with the stream link, so hopefully we get some more people into the stream through that. If someone joined back, this is interesting. What? We allow full TC in tier 1? What? ABS can unfortunately be on as well. Jeez. Now Rudy can't get in to fight everyone. Such a mess. Well, I guess while we're waiting, I'll go back to the interview lounge and see what everyone's been saying. Where is it? Here it is. So the questions this week was question 1, what do you think of this track? Question 2, who will finish on the podium? Question 3, what will the pole time be? Question 4, what are your thoughts on a short track being included? Question 5, how many people will we see being lapped? And question 6, across the 10 races in tier 5, across the 10 races in all 5 tiers, we've had 10 different winners. How long will this streak continue? Who will break it? So, well, I guess I'll answer first. What do I think of this track? It's alright. It's not as good as normal Bahrain. It's not a terrible track. It's alright. Who will finish on the podium? This is quite difficult because we've had some pretty different podiums across both races. And we've also got a lot of absences in this week's race, so I'm not fully sure. I think, as we get an invite from Rudy, I think Euro Jonah will be looking for some payback after last week, so I think he'll definitely be looking to put on a strong performance and get himself a podium. We're missing a few guys. I think Tal Piz could be on for another podium this week if his internet is okay. I don't know who for the third spot really. Maybe Chiquito or Dresser or Rally, you know, or Rudy. It could be any of those guys really. So yeah, I guess we'll wait and see. What will the poll time be? I'm gonna say a 57.7 as a guess. What are your thoughts on the short track being included? No problems with it being a short track. Bahrain is probably the best out of all of the short track options. The Britain one isn't too bad, but it is very short. I think that's a sub 1 minute lap in an F2 car, so it would probably not work too well in a league format. But yeah, I have no real problems with short track being included. I'm just kind of, you know, ever since we had PSGL put it on the calendar, every league started doing it. And to be honest, yeah, it's cool to just make a change, but normal Bahrain's better. So hopefully next season we can back to normal Bahrain. How many people we see getting lapped? 6. That's yeah, just 6 would be my guess. Actually, there might be a few retirements, so probably a bit less, but oh well. Across the 10 races, we've had 10 different winners. How long will this streak continue? Who will break it? I think it might get broken this week. At least one of the tiers, you know. So a lot of races to keep having different winners in. I think maybe Jonah might win today and break it. If not, I definitely think someone in one of the other tiers will break it, but you never know. On to everyone else's answers. We have URL Jonah. He says his thoughts of the track, kinda lame to be honest. His predicted podium is Bread, Chiquito and Talpiz. He predicts a 57.696 to be pole. His opinion on a short track is it had to happen once. At least it's better than Britain short. How many people will we see getting lapped? He said 3 or 4. And he says he hopes he breaks the streak today. I like to. So Harmon's answers. So he said he likes to drive the track, but the game doesn't work on it because of the DRS trains. Referencing the fact that it's very easy just to stay within 1 second because there's 2 DRS straights in a sub 1 minute lap, and like not really too many fast corners where you get a lot of dirty air. Only really 3 or 4 heavy braking zones in the whole track. I wouldn't count coming into the penultimate corner as a heavy braking zone. It's a braking zone, but it's not exactly heavy. Same with the turn 4 on the short layout. You come straight out of turn 3 and straight into turn 4, so I wouldn't really call that a heavy braking zone, but yeah, just very easy to stay within 1 second and use that DRS and sit there all race, in all honesty. His prediction for the podium is Bread, Talpiz and himself, so Harmon with a bit of confidence this week. He predicts pole to be a 57.5. He says he likes it, it's something different in terms of having a short track on the calendar. He said not many people will get lapped. He thinks there will be a race winner that we've already seen within the next 3 races. Next up is Jim. He says the track is okay, but he's not looking forward to the DRS trains. His predicted podium is Bread, Jonah and Talpiz. He predicts pole to be a 57.6. He thinks having a short track on the calendar is fine. Already raced Bahrain short in other leagues and would have preferred Silverstone. Thinks 3 people are going to get lapped and that the streak will not continue since Bread will win for sure. Well, Bread's actually not here at the moment. He's at uni. He's had a power cut, so he's actually not here. So he will not win. I'm very sure of that. Jonas next as we do finally get underway. 21 minutes late. Yikes. Yeah, so Jonah next. He says the track seems lame. He thinks the podium will be Bread, Talpiz and Jonah. So we have Jonah and Jonas. Very confusing. He thinks the pole time will be a 57.6. He doesn't think a short track is really needed on the calendar. Thinks that he's saying hopefully he won't get lapped, and that the streak will be broken today in tier 2 with Dawidek. So maybe these two know each other, and that's why he said that. Chiquito, with the final set of answers, says track's got a lot of potential. He's seen some good races with different strategies. Thinks the podium will be Bread, and Talpiz. Not sure how Bread's on there twice, but okay. Thinks pole will be a 57.589, very specific, and that the short track will add some fun to the calendar. He says not many people will get lapped, as normally they'd just retire if they get lapped, which is fair enough, and he hopes that he can continue the streak of having different winners this week, as we have 2 Mercs and a Ferrari straight onto track. And I'll just put on map, data, telemetry and best. Get rid of all of the stuff for this outlap, don't really need it on an outlap. We'll just watch Skolzy and what he does on his first lap here. Is he letting someone through? Doesn't look like it. Maybe Mike wants to come through. There's a Haas. I think there's a Haas back there who's going quite fast and overtaking people. And the other Mercedes has already dropped back. The other Mercedes is right in front of him, so he did let Jim through. Oh! Jim, I don't know if he was trying to let back Skolzy back through, but now Skolzy's lost out to the other Mercedes, and maybe this was some kind of tactic to get them to slipstream each other. But he's quite far behind. I don't think he's going to pick up any slipstream from there. Slipstream range on this track is about 0.6 of a second, so you have to be very close to get slipstream. As he gets a bit on the grass there, but brakes just before the 100 metres. He's turning into turn 1, big lock up there, using second to short him to third. Very narrow on turn 3, not using the full track with the turn the exit, so he can get the good line through turn 4. Bit of oversteer on the exit turn 4. Very tricky corner there before opening his DRS on the back straight. Second DRS zone on this track. He's now going to use all of the entry curb into turn 5. Long left-hander there, using all the track on the right without touching that curb. The curb will slow you down. And then through the right-hander, also don't touch the curb, it will spin you. Just using a little bit of curb through the the penultimate corner. We're already at the end of the lap as he gets through the middle sector there before coming to the final corner, braking long after the 100, just before the 50 metre marker board. He's using all of the track on exit again after just clipping the apex, not really wanting to use too much curb on the inside there. He set a 59.0 for the first lap of this race, and Jonah is the 4th man to cross the line but beats that. He's got a 58.0, so a whole second ahead already, and Rudy with a 1:05.7, so maybe had some kind of issue on his lap. Daniel coming through the final corner now. Let's see what he's able to do as he's running up to the line. We just had Salt cross the line into P2, Daniel into P6 with a 58.3, and looks like the next driver to cross the line will be Dresser. No, he's on an outlap, so it'll be will it be Harm or Rally? Rally's just ahead of Harm, so it will be Rally next across the line. Let's see what he's able to do on his lap. We'll get to be on board for most of it. Very short lap though, of course, being the short layout. One thing interesting to note is we will do a 100% race, because the 100% race on the short layout is about the same length as a 50% race on the normal layout. So it won't be necessarily longer, it will just have more laps because it is such a short lap here. So not too much to worry about there, but we have Rally now coming through the middle part of the lap into the final corner. Middle part of the lap, coming through the middle sector into the final corner. Sepsky spun on the exit of the final corner there, so won't be able to get a good lap, and he has already set a lap. Rally, the 58.6, not quite where he'd have hoped to be. Dresser has retired, invalidated, and Jonas is on an outlap, so Jonas will be a bit out of sync with the rest of the field here on his outlap. Maybe, well, he should just about get 3 runs in still, but maybe some of the other guys looking to get 4 runs in think they can. They probably can. Don't know what's going on here. Everyone's being a bit careful around each other. I don't think that's right. Jonas just jumped up the board. This doesn't look like it's very much of an outlap. Very interesting. Not sure what's going on there. Glitched or something. Dresser now coming towards the end of his second lap. Is he going to complete it, or is he going to dive into the pits? Looks like he plans to complete it, so it is a good lap. Hopefully he crosses the line. Where is it? P11, 58.9. So not really the lap he'd be hoping for, but he does have more sets of soft tyres to try and go faster. It looks like everyone opting for the soft tyres in this quali session. Strategy here will be soft medium for pretty much everyone, I'd imagine. Don't think anyone will plan to use the hards at any point. So maybe starting on the medium would be a good choice, but I don't know. Probably not. Just looking, Rally is out on a flyers invalidated lap, but it was a flying lap, so very interesting from Rally. He's kept going as Jonah starts his second lap of the session here. So Jonah only 2,000 separating him and Ladamala at the moment, so looking to improve by enough to hopefully keep that P1 ahead of Ladamala, who's still in the pit lane, so only looking to do 3 runs at the moment. Is very nice so far from Jonah, all tidy, nothing too messy at all, using all the right bits of curb. Interesting about that curb on the left there is it actually has no force feedback for the first bit on the short layout. It's fine on the normal layout, but on the short layout it has like no force feedback for the first half of the curve, and it's only right at the end that you actually start getting any kind of bump. So very strange curve, but across the line it's a 57.9, so improves by just over a tenth there, and that will extend his lead for the minute, but definitely more time to find, I think. Well, to be fair, we're only about 2/10 off of my prediction for pole, and if these guys are going to be doing 2 more laps in this session, it's completely possible that those 2/10 can be found. Just riding on board with Salt has started a lap here, so Salt wasn't racing last week, I'm pretty sure, so and didn't race last season, so it's completely new for me, so I have not much of an idea of what he can do, what they can do. So at the moment they've got an identical time to Scalzi, I just noticed, so completely identical there. Going to be interesting to see how those two compare in the rest of the session and into the race, if they're so close already. Yellow flags all over the track, not sure what for. I think it's just the yellow flag glitch, maybe for that Renault that was going through the final corner, but I don't think that would do it. I think that's Ladamala just starting a lap, so we'll switch over to Ladamala once we see the end of this lap. As Chiquito is up into pole as Salt actually comes into the pit, so Chiquito with a 57.6, so faster than what I predicted for pole. Great lap from them there to get ahead of Jonah by 2.5 tenths, which is quite big given how short this track is. Yeah, obviously the shorter the track, the more, but the harder it is to gain that time, so quite impressive there overall. Just watching Ladamala now, trying to get that slipstream maybe, but thinking better of it. Not really going to get any slipstream from that far back, so just a bit wasted really. Maybe cost a tiny bit of time, nothing too serious, but comes across the line. It's only a small, well, it's over a tenth improvement, but only 1 position overall, up into 4th there with a 57.955, only 1/100th of a second behind Jonah, as Sepsky has moved up into P2 with a 57.908, about 400ths quicker than Jonah, so very close between certainly our P2, 3, 4 and 5 here. P1 does have a bit of a gap, and there is a small gap back to Rally in P6, but very tight really across the board, to be honest. Not too many large gaps, as Jim there choosing to set his lap on the mediums. That's really the largest gap there is between P11 and P12, and we still have Dresser and Rudy with either not great or very unrepresentative times, as Talpiz and Harm yet to set a valid lap. Rudy crossing the line now to start his second run. Let's ride on board and see what he's able to do. Braking just for the 100. It turned in quite nicely using that first gear. Getting good acceleration out of the corner, switching very aggressively back over to the right, and maybe not using enough curb there. Going to lose him a bit of time. But he is already 7/10 up, so a lot of time to be found obviously on this lap, but he's well on the way to finding it already through the first sector. Going to come now through this sweeping right-hander before braking down the hill, and we're coming up to the second sector split now. Let's see what the difference is. It's 3.4 seconds quicker. Bear in mind he is on the medium tyre, so if he was able to find the rest of this time and maybe get into the top 10 on that medium, that would be a huge benefit coming into the race, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. 59.0, a much more solid time, but still last of all the timed runs so far. Only about a tenth off of the other medium runner Jim here, and Dresser still sat between them on a 58.9. Talpiz now crosses the line. Strangely doesn't actually give him a time. I don't think he was invalidated, as Harm has invalidated their lap. Let's see, Dresser on a lap coming through the final corner there is making an improvement on those soft tyres. Is it enough of an improvement to mean anything? Not really. Improved by a tenth and a half up to P12. Only moved himself ahead of Jim in the medium tyres, so still the slowest of all the soft tyre times, and by quite a bit as well, about 4/10 before we get to P11 Joe. So Dresser definitely struggling a bit here at the moment. Maybe it's setup related, maybe just not really loving this track, or maybe the short version in particular, but not what we expect to see from Dresser really here today. But moving forwards, we have, who do we have? Both Alphas in an outlap, so a bit of a strange time to be in an outlap really with 5 minutes left, because I don't think they have enough time to complete a lap. Maybe just about enough time to complete a lap and come back in, as we actually have Jonah on an invalidated lap and Chiquito on a slow lap by the looks of it. Jonah did get back up into second with a 57.8 to get ahead of Sepsky and Ladamala here. Salt on another lap, but it's looking like it's been abandoned. Maybe going to go through out the final corner and start a new lap. No, just coming into the pits, but Talpiz then with a 57.7 finally with the valid run, and it's put in P2 for the moment, so just over a tenth behind provisional pole, and well, very close to P3 there, about 2/100ths of a second separating Talpiz and Jonah there. And now we have everyone having set a valid lap, so we have got everyone on the board now. We hope this is representative really of everyone's pace. Interestingly, Sculsey improved by not by very much, as Talpiz going for another laps by the looks of it, so using none ERS but deciding to go for it still. I'm not sure. Very confusing, to be completely honest. Sepsky though is on a lap and is improving at the minute, so as he gets a huge snap of oversteer coming out of the penultimate corner. Slightly down, so that's cost him just a bit too much for the moment. Let's see if it can all come back for the final corner. No, it's probably not. Very wide through there, missing the apex completely and diving straight back into the pits with maybe just about enough time to set another lap in this session. Sculsey, another driver on a lap, not looking like it. It's going to come back into the pits as Mike retires. I'm pretty sure that was in the pits. as Jim comes to complete a new lap on the soft tyre and moves himself up into P13 with a 58.2. So not a huge improvement, about 2 positions on the soft tyre. So we'll hope for more, most likely, as Rudy also going for a soft tyre run. Gonna come up and cross the line in a second. It's going to be a 58.3. That's a 7/10 improvement, only moving him up 1 position into P15. So only Dresser behind him now. Joe only 1/1000th of a second ahead, so I don't think he has enough time to go for another run. So very disappointing from the reigning champion there. Yeah, would have expected more maybe, but maybe just not his track. We have Joe now coming on a lap, taking a bit too much curb in my opinion there, but we'll have to see how the rest of this lap goes. Very close to invalidating there, but keeping it just within the limits. Very nice. And he's slightly improving. Not by enough to really make an impression on anyone else, I don't think, but it will be a small improvement as he comes to cross the line. What's it going to be? It's a 58.3 still, improved by about 0.03 of a second, but still in P14 then. So Joe's struggling a bit as well. As now my heads-up display has glitched. There we go, it's fixed. We have Rally starting a lap. Daniel finishing a lap. Let's see what Daniel is able to do as he crosses the line. Nothing much. It looks like that was a second out lap, maybe. We have the top guys also on lap. Tao Piz going to be the first of the top guys to complete the lap. Or maybe not. Looks like either I'm not getting outlap getting displayed on my screen, or these guys are doing 2 outlaps, which is a strange tactic in all honesty, but a lot of them are doing it by the looks of it. Taup is not using ERS down this main straight, or DRS, so I can't see anything coming of this, as he does turn it on as he gets to the end of the straight, but you kind of want to use the DRS on the straight to get the time, and now we have the checkered flag full, so Chiquito's not going to be able to improve. Harmon then with an identical time to Tao Piz, but somehow is ahead. Usually when you set an identical time, the guy who did it after is behind, but for some reason Harmon is ahead of Tao Piz, who has set the same time but earlier in the session. Ladamala has finished so far in P4 with a 57.8, about 0.03 quicker than Jonah, but Jonah is actually abandoning his lap, so that is it. Jonah P5 is the best he can do. Tao Piz crosses the line, and it's not an improvement. I'm so confused. I think he's lag or desynced, because it's just said that he's fine. He's actually using hot lap, but the session's over. And obviously the issues we had earlier were from his internet, as Jonas is on an out lap, strangely. Just keep an eye on what's going on with Tao Piz. Is anyone else saying anything in the chat? Oh, someone's game crashed. Let him matter. Oh, people's games are crashing. Very strange. And Tao Piz is still going. Wait, Jonas is now on a lap and back to an out lap? I'm so confused, man. I'm honestly, I've never seen this happen. I know before there was a glitch where you could start a lap after the time ran out, but that got fixed, and we're still. What's going on? Wait, what? Talpi's got pole? Yeah, so Talpi's on pole, but shouldn't be. Chiquito should be on pole. And I'm pretty sure Harm should be P2. So Talpi should be P3. Then it's Ladamala, Jonah, Sepsky, Skulzy, Salt, Mike, Goodwin, Rally, Jim, Jonas, Joe, Rudy, and Dresser, who is in last. What's going on? 57.620 is his second lap. Apparently he only did 2 laps. I'm so confused, man, if I'm being honest. And we had Chiquito 57.60. So the times do seem to line up, but he wasn't where he should have been on my screen. Same with Jonas, who I fairly sure is in the right position anyway. We also aren't going anywhere apparently. No one's advancing. Oh, they're having issues with Talpiz not being ready. Yeah, you need to press advance, dude. Oh my god. Not in that image, you didn't. Yeah, so we did all this to get him in the lobby. We started 20 minutes late for him, and now it's messed up. We had a lot of there we go. That's Talpiz leaving. It's sorted it out. He will miss the start of this race, won't he? Just waiting for everyone to hit ready. Or has it just messed up the whole lobby? Oh no, Skillsy's now ready. Come on lads. 2 ready, 4 seconds to go, 3 ready. They're all going to get forced to be ready now. We are away for the formation lap, so Talpiz's AI will lead them away. See how the AI deals with the formation lap. Not too bad, to be fair. I was expecting it to be a bit strange if you usually think about how the AI behave, and the fact that it's not doing anything weird is a bit of an achievement, to be honest. We actually have 2 drivers disqualified from the formation lap already. What will that actually do? Really? Only 3 drivers chose the mediums, okay. The other 3 all chose softs. So Dresser, Joe and Jonas all on softs, while Rally, Jim and Rudy chose the mediums. The mediums would definitely be the better tyre to start on, I think. But obviously these guys had other ideas. Everyone's here. Should be ready. Lights coming on now, so we have 5 red lights and we're underway. Very quick to go out there. Looking like a good start for Talpiz's AI, but in the second phase the AI does usually tend to struggle. He's going to be falling down the order very quickly. A great start there from Ladamala to get past one of the Red Bulls already. Looking for a move on the other Red Bulls. There's a bit of damage for someone who must have run into the back of another driver, unless Rally is round. So I don't know who's touched him, but that's not normal. Had a bit of a rough start, if I'm being honest, and now there's a safety car and Joe and someone else were behaving a bit strange. Maybe the strangest start to a race I've ever seen, and Salt is ghosted, so I'm assuming he's either disconnected or paused the game. Right, Talpiz needs an invite. Huge mess, to be honest. 2 drivers with strange circumstances. We have Jonas, Sepsky, Joe and Jim in the pits, as well as Dresser, Rally and Mike. So I'm assuming all of these guys were either repairing damage, but I think they were all repairing damage, as no one's chosen the hard tyres, so a lot of damage right at the start of that race. And Chiquito holding the lead from Ladamala, then Harm, Sculsey, The numbers have all messed up. They're not actually in that position. Then Daniel, Rudy, Tao Piz, who's been saved a bit by this safety car. He's not dead last, and he's not not like miles behind. He's P7, so if he can get back in the session soon, it would be okay for him, I think. But I've sent him an invite and he hasn't joined back. Then we have Jonas, who's also disconnected. He's restarting his PS4. Mersalt, who's also disconnected. Sepsky, who pitted, are now on the mediums. Mike, who pitted, is now on the mediums. Rally, who pitted, now on the softs. Jonah, who pitted, now on the mediums. Joe, who pitted, now on the softs. So we have Joe, Jonah, and we have, where is he? Jonas. So that's going to be confusing. We have Dresser pitted onto the mediums and Jim pitted onto the mediums too. But wondering how long the safety cars can stay out for us. The last two guys are now catching up to the field. As the lights do go out, so the safety car is in this lap. I'm going to try once more to invite Tal Piz. And we're going to wait and see where it is that Chiquito decides to go. Not even out of the final corner, so he's going to try and go at some point on the straight. Do a Bottas. He's gone now, just before they hit the DRS line. Now, is that going to work out for him? He does look like he's caught Ladamala napping. Harm got the jump on the Renault driver. Ladamala going to defend it. Harm with the inside line. Chiquito maybe coordinating with his teammate there to help get the Red Bull 1-2 off the start. And Ladamala still there on the left, but just about keeping it on the road for both drivers. As Ladamala now gets pushed off the track, he's going to be under pressure from Scolzi as a result. Scolzi with the ERS activated. Is he going to go to the outside? Ladamala looking to the inside of Harm. Harm covering it off very nicely. And with a poor exit though, Ladamala may be going to get him on the exit. He's going to try round the outside through the fast right-hander, and then he's going to stay alongside, still on the outside for the penultimate corner there again off the track. And have a better drive by the looks of it though. Maybe using a bit more ERS than Harm is. Harm with a bit more ERS overall as a result. Ooh, that was very close. Not quite a car's width, I don't think, but it has all worked out. No one's ended up facing the wrong way, and what this has allowed is for Chiquito to already be 1.5 seconds in the lead. Scolzi now looking to get the jump on Harm after that poor exit. Harm defending to the inside. Scolzi late on the brakes, but not quite late enough to make anything happen. He's now under pressure from Daniel. Daniel maybe looking for a move on the inside. Not quite going to find the room. He's still looking towards the outside of the Ferrari. Going to go for a better exit. Much wider line into the turn 4. No DRS of course just yet. We had that safety car, so DRS will be activated at the end of this lap, as Rudy, who started on those mediums after a disappointing qualifying, already found himself up into P6, so looking much better for the reigning champion at the moment at least, as Jonas needs an invite. I'll just ask what his PSN is. Gap starting to get a bit bigger here. Daniel really the closest driver to another car. Scolzi getting close to Harm as well, but okay, as Jonas has now joined. Is there going to be a move on? Still no DRS on this straight. There will be DRS the next time they go through a detection point though, which is just on the exit of turn 2 in the middle of turn 3 here. So I'm going to come in and see who's going to be close enough to make a move. Definitely looking like Daniel is the most likely to get something done here, but unfortunately for him, Scolzi does still have that DRS up ahead. So we're just going to see now, yeah, Scorsese just able to keep it ahead, but we'll have to see coming through down the main straight if he can hold it, because that main straight is quite a bit longer, as you can even see on the mini-map, than that back straight. So it's a much better chance, got a much heavier braking zone too. So yeah, overtakes are quite a bit easier there, but that DRS that Scorsese does still have on Harm by the looks of it is going to help him out a lot in terms of defending from the Williams. Rudy starting to fall back a bit from his teammate here, so still does have that DRS, but going to be a struggle to hold on to it for too long, I think, on the harder medium compound, unless those softs start dying quick, which in this slightly longer race in terms of laps they won't. I think most of the soft tyre runners are going to try and aim to take their tyres to just over 20 laps, so if they were dead after 7, including a safety car, you'd be a bit worried. Again, very close there from Daniel, not quite close enough. Also up ahead, Harm hot on the tail of Ladamala. Ladamala, of course, does not have DRS, as he's already over 2 seconds behind our leader Chiquito, so definitely struggling a bit. But in terms of ERS, he's got 20% less than Harm, so he's got to be careful with that. If he runs out of DRS, he's going to be a sitting duck, even more than he already is without that DRS. So Ladamala got to play this one very tactically if he wants to make something happen. But Harm is backing himself up into Scorsese a bit, and this is actually helping Scorsese to just about keep ahead of the Williams of Daniel. So everyone's just starting to find out the troubles of being in a DRS train. If you're not the second man in the train, you've got not much chance of actually making an overtake happen, and unfortunately this could be a race-long thing, in all honesty. So yeah, just looking at the gaps here, it looks like Daniel is still the one with the most pace. I think he's faster than Scorsese at the moment, maybe faster than Harm, but that would be hard to tell. But he's definitely able to hold on through those corners with dirty air a bit better than the Ferrari ahead of him is. About 2/10 closer than the car ahead is, but obviously DRS opens. Car ahead also has that DRS, so it isn't really much of an advantage, but he's using his overtake mode to try and gain himself an advantage here. Up the inside into turn 1, but he's run into the back of Harm there, and I think that's pushed Harm a bit offline. And maybe Daniel's going to look to get the move done on the Red Bull as well, but he doesn't get the chance. But he does have damage, so that will hurt him through the corners quite a bit, and of course damage gets worse the longer you run with it. So yeah, that could be disaster for the Williams here, and he will definitely have to change that in the pit stops. But whether he decides to pit now or later will be up to him. Now looking for the outside is Scorsese, and he's got it done. So after all that, it was quite a easy move for Scorsese, back around the outside, and it's back to square one. But Rudy looked for the move on his teammate, tried down the inside, a bit of a silly move really, but has now found himself under pressure from the Mercedes of Mike as the move didn't work. And look at that, Daniel does pit Rudy there without any ERS to defend with. He's already used up his entire battery. That's going to make him a bit of an easy target for Mike, but Mike is not really using any ERS to overtake, and that's going to cost him here, as he's just kind of pushed towards the edge of the track, and obviously that curb there's not much traction, and lost out with the tighter narrow line into turn 2. But he will get another chance. Rudy still, that flashing red light telling us that he's run out of ERS, and now outside of DRS range on Scorsese. Scorsese also losing DRS to Harm, so DRS range breaking up a bit here after the couple of attempted moves, and Harm still latching onto the back of that Renault very tightly. Scorsese looking like he's used a bit of ERS to make sure he's inside of that 1 second window. He will get the advantage of DRS down the main straight, as will Mike. Mike, look how close he is already. You can see that red flashing light before they even get to the finish line. And it's going to be an easy pass here with DRS assistance this time round, and he's going to pull into the racing line, but Rudy with a slight move under braking. It looks like he's broken Jonah's front wing there. He has. So I'm sure we'll see that one in the stewards later, as there's a big dive there from Joe. he is left the room from by Jonah, and fair play to Jonah there. He could have very easily turned in on Joe and caused an incident, but he saw it coming and dealt with, well, acted appropriately, I should say, to get out of the way. It's a big slide there from Jonah, and that's going to slow him down even more, but I don't think he's going to come under pressure just yet. But that damage definitely hurting his race, and being on that medium tyre, he's not really able to pit and go to the end unless he chooses the hards, which would be not a great tyre to really race on. So we'll have to see what he does. Daniel chose the mediums after his stop, probably will have to stop again. Jonah will pit to fix that wing, and I've got to say, as we're distracted, actually looking at this, the move for the lead, well, not the lead, the second place, basically the lead of anything interesting. Chiquito's already checked out and is 4.5 seconds ahead, so Harmer moving his way up to P2 there, ahead of Ladamala. Ladamala held on for quite a while, considering he didn't have the DRS advantage of the car behind, but it's now looking like he's starting to struggle a bit. ERS levels have stabilised a bit though, so maybe just looking after his battery a bit and maybe waiting to strike later on in this race. Of course, now that he has the DRS, he can just sit behind for a bit, save a bit more battery. When you're in DRS, you save more battery than when you don't have DRS, because you have to brake harder. So maybe save a bit of that battery up, and a little bit later on into the race make his move. Maybe try and get ahead on strategy, but I think for now he'll be fairly happy just to sit here in third place and manage everything he needs. Yeah, no attempt at a move there at all. So we're going to move a bit further back to Rudy, who's still quite close to the car ahead. Mike not with the DRS of Scoolsy, so Rudy really with all the advantage here, except for his ERS, which he's still using even though he's derating. It's just not really necessary to be using it there. He can close up with the DRS in the straight, and then, oh, I say that as Mike has actually on his own spun round and into the wall. It was quite a heavy contact, so quite lucky that nothing went on there. Ghosting, so not taking anybody else up, but that has destroyed his race. I don't know what happened, maybe caught a bit too much curb and just lost it, but he is now down in P11 after that spin. That's moved Rudy back up into P5, but Joe quite close behind on a softer set of tyres. Might want to change that soon. Got a lot more ERS too, but it isn't using it. Doesn't seem to be too bothered, as Ladamala had a little look up the inside to turn 1. Wasn't quite enough this time round. I'm not really sure that he would want to make a move just now. It would kind of be pointless to make a move just to probably lose the position again. But in the background we see Joe trying to make the move. He has got it done before we even get to the corner there on Rudy, so does now get ahead on lap 14 and maybe has the pace to close up to the top group. I'm quite doubtful. The DRS help that the top group's getting will definitely be quite a big factor, but here we see Ladamala is all over the back of Harm. Definitely ever since being behind Harm has looked like he's had much better pace than what Harm did behind him, so maybe Ladamala is the faster driver out of these two at the moment. He looks to the inside of turn 1, big send, late braking, and works out for him just fine. Nice move up into the lead, not too much to say about that one. Pretty textbook for a turn 1 move in Bahrain, as Mike speeds into the pit lane. He did have another spin there, and I think he might retire. He doesn't look like he has retired, so maybe he is just looking for a new set of tyre. He does now retire. Okay, it didn't come up on the bottom screen, but he has now retired that Mercedes car, and that will be the end of his race. First retirement of this race, of course. Talpiz never really started this race, so down to 14 drivers as it stands, and these top, well, this fight for the podium being the most interesting thing we've got going on track at the moment. We do have Rally very close to Salt back here, but Harm is a lot closer to Ladamala than that, and it's going to be a very easy pass down the inside into turn 1, and Scoolsy still just sat there behind, not really finding an opening on either of these two drivers at the moment. So yeah, I think Scorsese finding out what it's like to be the third man in the train and just struggling really to get any kind of advantage. Obviously, being third man, you've got the same DRS advantage that the car ahead of you does, so that all cancels out. And then maybe you have more ERS, but is it enough of an? Do you have enough more ERS to make a pass? Because you're probably saving about the same amount as the car ahead anyway, because of you both having DRS. Maybe setup difference will help, but yeah, it's being in Scholes' position is just not really great, to be honest. Harm going defensive this time, very aggressively defensive to the inside. Ladamala not really thinking much of it, just kind of staying on the racing line and doing his thing, as we have Rudy ghosting with Salt here, and it's quite a group of cars that we've ended up with here, just fighting. I don't know what's happened, but they weren't this close before, as we now have Rally looking for move down the inside on Salt. Very nice actually, up the inside. Obviously was quite far alongside into the braking zone, so most of the work was done, but not usually where you'd expect to see an overtake. But obviously with this shorter layout, you need to find new opportunities to make those moves that wouldn't always be there in the normal layout of the track. We're going to just look back to the front of this race. Ladamala using that DRS, choosing not to use any ERS, and I think he's just doing what I was saying earlier. He's just going to stick behind Harmer for the time being, manage all of his ERS and everything else he needs to, and wait till a little bit later in this race to make his move. I think Scorsese hoping that one of them does something soon so that he gets a chance to make some moves himself. But not looking like it's going to happen at the moment. Rudy actually caught up to Joe again, so maybe those medium tyres starting to come into effect a bit. Those softs coming to the end of their life, of course, here on lap 18. We did have that safety car, which would preserve them a little bit, but you're not going to take them too far past lap 20 no matter what happens. So going to be interesting to see how his tyres perform compared to these medium runners over the next couple of laps. Obviously Rudy looking very poised to have a move here, and actually Rudy has managed to save a bit of ERS here. He's not using it down the straight either, so he has actually got himself to a point where he can use a bit if he needed to. Not too much as Jim going round the outside of turn 1 on Salt. As Salt maybe trying to fight back, looking to the outside into turn 4, not quite finding the room, and going to be better traction there from Jim, who has the better conditioned tyres, and Salt derating already, trying to use ERS but doesn't have very much of it left and has to settle for 9th place. There is of course only about 3 corners before we get another DRS straight, so he will get another chance soon. Someone who's also looking for a chance here is Rally. Rally apparently hasn't heard the disadvantages of being the third man in a train and is trying his best to make something happen here. Just losing a bit of time down that straight. Maybe Rudy using a bit of his ERS, definitely using it now down the main straight. Has stopped using it just before we get to the DRS zone. Doesn't really need to use it. He's got the speed because of the DRS, and he's close enough anyway. And there he is, back up into P5 ahead of Joe with a fairly simple DRS move. He didn't really need to do much work into the braking zone, but Rally now under pressure from Jim. Jim looking like he's on a charge on those medium tyres. Medium tyres definitely looking like the tyre to be on at the moment. But down this back straight, I don't think too much is going to happen. Maybe Salt looking for a space there, but it's not going to open up for him. So we go around again as we have Jonah in the pits, and Jonah retires from this race. So we're now down to 13 runners. Of course, Tal Piz never started the race, so that's what going to happen. But 3-second time penalty there for Dresser. So the first driver here on lap 21. It took us all the way until lap 21 this week to get our first track limits penalty, and well done to the guys, in all honesty. We had penalties on lap 1 in previous weeks, so to get all the way to lap 21 is quite an achievement, without sounding too patronising. Rally maybe looking for the move up the inside, not quite going to happen to him, but someone who is trying to get it done is Rudy on the back marker there. Not sure why that back marker looked like he was giving him so much trouble, but he was. The car of Jonah, I think it's not ghosted is the problem here. Jonah retired in the pits. His car's come back out the pit lane and has carried on for a couple of corners before parking up, so maybe that car didn't ghost and that was what was causing Rudy the trouble. Rudy back down under 10% of ERS, and I thought he had saved enough to maybe not immediately start derating, but apparently not. But he does definitely seem like he has the pace compared to the Renault behind him. As just looking back to the top group, we actually have Harm. Looks like he's going to peel into the pits. He does. So Harm is the first driver to stop from the soft tyre in this race. Is anyone going to follow him? Not at the moment. I think everyone else is thinking that their tyres can go a little bit longer because of the safety car, but I think really at this point they've got to react to that stop. They want to reduce the threat of the undercut and cover it off immediately, otherwise they could find themselves in trouble. The undercut not the most powerful around this track, obviously it is fairly powerful, the dead soft tyres are quite bad, but being such a short lap that kind of cancels out a lot of the benefit you get out of the undercut. So we'll have to see whereabouts he comes out of the pits. Is it going to be enough for him to actually start outside of the gap that he needs? As Joe looks like he's just touched the wall on the inside there. It was a very slow speed collision to have a retirement from, but unfortunately for Joe he has retired after what looked like touching the inside curb there through the fast right hander, which we all know is pretty deadly. But this now activates the VSC and everyone's going to come into the pits. So talking about the undercut that Harm was going to get, he's actually going to lose out big time here because of that VSC. Everyone going on to the mediums. Mediums will go to the end from here, so we'll have to see where Harm comes out, but it's going to be behind Ladamella for sure. Who else is it going to be behind that he was ahead of previously? Is safe VSC staying out for long enough for these guys to get in and out the pits? Is Harm going to get ahead of Rally? He is, so Harm only losing 2 positions out of this, but he's outside of that DRS and he's got the threat of Rally and Salt behind to deal with, as they have to back off for the Delta, it looks like. And now we can go. VSC is over, and just look at that gap. Look how much time that VSC has lost Harm here. He's 3 seconds behind Sculsi and Ladamella, and before he was looking to get an undercut to get outside of their DRS range, and he's now finding himself so far outside of theirs that it would be a struggle really to get much done. And Chiquito of course still in the net lead of this race. Obviously Rudy and Jim ahead started on the medium tyres, they will have to pit for softs at some point. Crucial error from Joe. Yeah, he's unfortunately retired due to what was a pretty slow speed incident, but I've seen stranger incidents where people have retired, so yeah, it's just a bit unfortunate from him. Just clipped that inside curb by the looks of things, and round the car goes through that corner. It is just one of them things, you've got to go through there 57 times in this race without touching that curb once. Yeah, Joe got to watch that curb. You just see the lines everyone else is taking. You have to get close to it if you want to put in a decent lap, but to get close to it 57 times and not touch it is pretty difficult in all fairness. So just a bit unlucky really for Joe, becoming the 3rd official retirement of this race, the 4th driver who isn't here. But now we have a teammate battle here between Jonas and Sepsky. Sepsky not looking like he's fighting that one too much against his teammate. His teammate of course on fresher tyres. Sepsky been 18 laps on those softs, so he's really not in a good position in this race, to be honest. He's last, I think, out of the guys who have to still stop. He's not going to the end on those softs at all, so unlucky there. Similar to that grey curb in Hungary. I'd actually say it's not as bad as the grey curb in Hungary. You can get away with not spinning on this curb here in Bahrain, but the one in Hungary is a 100% chance of a spin. Every single time you touch that, you're straight around. But yeah, very similar. Just watching, yeah, Jonas here already starting to pull away a bit from Sepsky. Of course, Sepsky gets the DRS to help him out, but you can just see through the corners how much time he's losing to his teammate. So we will cut away from this to Salt. Salt, the only man here who's within any kind of meaningful DRS range. Of course, we have Dresser and Sepsky, but of course, as we established, Sepsky is very quickly losing that DRS, and Dresser is behind a car that has to pit anyway. So Rally and Salt really going to be the biggest fight at the moment, I think. You can see that it's 5/10, but it still looks so far going down that straight. You wouldn't want to try and start a move from that far back. Really, you want to be about 5/10 behind as you go onto the straight if you really want any chance of making a move. Although I say that, it looks like Scoolsy's having a bit better time against Lanamala than Salt is here against Rally. So we'll have to keep an eye on the gap as they come through the final couple of corners. A big mistake there from Scoolsy. He's going to lose him a few tenths as he goes very wide at the penultimate corner. On the run up to the final corner, he will get DRS, but he's just not quite close enough to make anything happen. I don't think he's... If he wants to make a move here, he's got to hope that Lanamala doesn't use any of his ERS, and that Scoolsy will really have to drain all of his battery. But Lanamala actually derating ahead. I think that's a good sign for Scoolsy. It tells him that he doesn't really have to use as much DRS. Lanamala is going to be a bit slow on the straights anyway, and all he has to do is get within range. But we do now have the move up the inside from Salt. He's hit that curb a bit hard though, and has to give room to Rally, who cuts that corner really and loses all of the momentum, so gives up the position, but does have DRS coming down this back straight. He's going to be close enough. I don't think he will 4/10. But Mimmer Salt is derating, and as you can see, Rally has over 40% of his ERS left, so quite a big difference here between the two drivers' battery levels. Could play into Rally's hands very soon, but he is struggling a little. It looks a bit like he's struggling in the dirty air just to keep it on the kind of lines he wants, so going to lose out quite a bit, 7/10 as we come through the final corner. But someone who's much closer this lap, Scoolsy, getting to the end of the straight, 2/10 separating them, just under 2/10 for a second there, but not quite enough to make anything happen. You can see taking very different lines through turn one there, probably taking different gears by the looks of it too, so different driving styles in play here from these two drivers, but still very, very close on track, so it's working out for them. And someone else very close, Daniel, now on the back of Jonas. This is probably the closest any two cars have been coming onto this back straight. Interesting to note though that Daniel is on old mediums and will have to stop again. Jonas here is on fresher mediums. Daniel's tyres won't go to the end. He'll probably have to pit for a set of softs at some point. And behind we have Sepsky and Dresser. So Jonas has actually passed Daniel, probably last lap, after pulling away from Sepsky. Of course, we had that whole fight between Sepsky and Ladamala. Look away, and Ladamala and Scoolsy do decide to have a bit of a fight. Scoolsy moving ahead of Ladamala, but is it just going to be a case of he comes through and then a few laps time we'll be watching him lose the position again? Maybe. But we have behind Dresser, who of course has that penalty, making the move on Sepsky very easy by the looks of it down the straight, and just was able to take the racing line into the corner. But a big moment for Sepsky, and he's out of this race. Just caught the edge of that barrier there with the wheel spin out of turn 2, and it's another virtual safety car. So I mean, if I was Rudy and Jim, I'd be quite annoyed at this, because not quite close enough to make the softs work to the end. But are either of them going to try it? I think they're both trying it. Oh no. They're going to try the softs to the end. I don't think that's going to work. Of course, in their minds, they would have had to have taken this opportunity to pit because of how much time it would gain them. But I don't think those softs will really go to the end without another safety car or something. They have to go another 27 laps, and you saw guys earlier pitting after only 15 laps. Look, where is he going to end up on the exit of the pit lane? It's side by side with Rally, but of course it's virtual safety car conditions. It isn't anymore, but was virtual safety car conditions, and Ladamala immediately passes Scorsese there, so Ladamala wasting no time at getting that position back, and that makes us down to 11 runners, Tower Piz having been ghosted since the start, as we have now Daniel and Jonas. There's not much room left on the inside by Jonas, but Daniel able to hold it there. He's going to go for the outside through the right-hander. Is still there, and Jonas has to fall back behind. Isn't going to fight that one. Knows that he has another opportunity coming onto the main straight in a minute. We also have Jim very close to the back of Rally. Same with Salt on the back of that's Tower Piz, the ghosted car. So no one will be getting any benefit from that, but Ladamala and Scorsese going again. Ladamala on the outside this time. He's going to have the better traction. He's able to hold his position ahead of Scorsese. That's 5 seconds for Daniel. Daniel comes into the pits and has sped, so that's going to be quite a big penalty for him, but he is last place overall anyway, so probably not going to be too bad. Doesn't look like anyone was quite able to make the move happen on the main straight in this group. Obviously Rally also has the DRS and Salt, but now Jim might be able to take the chance. He doesn't quite get there, but Rally's outbraked himself, and this allows Jim to go up the inside. There's been contact, and yeah, I think Rally got pushed a bit wide there from the contact, but Jim does move his way up into P7 there. Jim with a penalty, Rally does not, so overall not much of a change there, but we'll have to see how this goes for Rally. Of course, Rally on the harder compound compared to Jim. Jim on those much fresher softs. Is he going to pit again? What? Did he speed? Because I think he's serving a drive-through, so he must have sped under the VSC. So all that fighting, and it's come to nothing because he's just peeled into the pits. I'm not sure Rally will be too happy about that one at all. Someone who also won't be too happy, oh no, Daniel Goodwin, 5 seconds for speed in the pit lane, retires, leaving us with only 10 runners in this race. Everyone who finishes will score points then. So Scorsese won't be too happy after getting done straight away off the virtual safety car, and probably had to brake to sort out his delta, and Ladamala took that opportunity to go, would be my guess, but he's not really close enough on this lap to do anything just outside that slipstream range. Slipstream only working from about 6/10 back. Has saved a lot of VRS though, probably thanks to the VSC we had, and Ladamala also doing quite well on ERS here, as we have Jonas into the pits. Not sure why, he's on fairly decent tyres. Let's see, what is he going to pit onto softs to the end, go for fastest lap maybe? No, I think he's also serving a drive-through, so I think Jonas is another driver who sped under the VSC and has had to serve a drive-through, so comes out behind Jim there, so Jim back up into P9, but of course on those tyres that I don't think will make it to the end, or at least not in any good condition, so Jonas still able to beat Jim here for P9 if he wants to. Cut back to the front though, just slightly closer on this lap, Scorsese, but probably still not enough to make anything work here. Look at Chiquito already out there, 9 seconds in front of the rest of the field. It is his race at the moment, and it will take something really dramatic to change that. Harmer though has been slowly closing on this pair over the last few laps, so Harmer looking to get himself back involved in this situation. Of course, before he was at the front and pitted to try and maybe get the undercut and get himself outside of that 1 second, but then we had the VSC come out just after he left the pits, so Scorsese and Ladamala were able to pit and getting a huge advantage on him, but Harmer is slowly getting that time that he lost back. He is struggling a bit on the straights, of course, because of the DRS that Scorsese has, but I don't think he's losing too much overall. Of course, he's going to gain in the corners where Scorsese has the dirty air, so Have to watch it. Scolzi much closer. It's going to be a fairly easy pass down the straight. DRS opening, moves back to the racing line, and into turn one we go. Still with more ERS than Ladamala, so Scolzi really has the advantage at the moment. And I don't get why they keep switching like this, really. I kind of feel like one of them should just sit in behind and wait until they really need to make a move, either because they're at the end of the race or because Harmer caught up. So I don't really get the point in keep re-overtaking each other like this, because they're only just going to lose the position again in a few laps time. And yeah, okay, it makes the race more exciting if they keep swapping places, but you just got to think that it's just costing them time with all these overtakes and battling that they are continuously doing. We have to see on the straight now. Ladamala actually very close to the back of Scolzi. I think Scolzi made a slight mistake there, and Ladamala well within striking range in all honesty, but I don't think he's going to go for it. He's not using his ERS by the looks of things, and yeah, just going to keep it behind Scolzi for now. There's a bit of lag on that Ferrari, so maybe making it quite hard to judge where he's positioned his car, and that's making the overtaking thing a little bit more difficult. As yeah, Scolzi jittering about a bit, so yeah, more than a bit. Maybe that's hurting Ladamala here if he can't quite work out where that Ferrari is. Harmer still about a tenth a lap being gained here, so not a huge amount, probably enough to get inside DRS in about 7 or so laps time, maybe 8. So that'll take us to around about lap 45. So we'll have a decent amount of time left in this race. Ladamala now are much closer than he was last lap, and as you can see, the nature of this track just means that if you have two drivers of a similar pace, you're just not able to drop one another. It's just so easy to stay within that gap that you need, and in all honesty it's hurting both of their races here, as Harm actually caught quite a bit on that last lap. He's gapped down to 1.5, whereas it was 1.8 before, so catching a bit more than that 1/10 a lap that I mentioned before. As you can see, Ladamala definitely looking like he has the pace over Scolzi. I think what's going on here is Ladamala is faster than Scolzi, but Scolzi is using that DRS to his advantage to make it impossible for Ladamala to drop him when he's behind. You'll see now, coming onto the straight, 2/10 separating them as they come out of the final corner. There's no way he doesn't make a pass here, even without using his ERS. And as you can see, again, another fairly simple move back to the racing line, and there's not much Scolzi can do about it, to be honest. And they swap positions again. Now, there's just not really much point in it, in my opinion. I really think one of them should wait till like lap 55 or something and then go for it, and try and hold off on the last 2 laps. I think it would be a way better strategy. Puts a bit of pressure on your rival as well, knowing that they've got to do something in 2 laps rather than the 20 laps they have to think about it at the moment. But we'll just have to see who ends up in the best position towards the end of this race, and if maybe Ladamala is able to defend well, or if his tyres die quicker than Scolzi's do, or even the other way around, you know. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. But Harm is now back inside of that 1 second. He will have DRS. As you can literally, like, Ladamala was 2-3 tenths behind coming out that final corner every lap. Scolzi is 6 tenths behind, right on the edge of that slipstream range. So I think it's quite obvious at this point that Ladamala is the faster driver as it stands. Not quite as fast as Chiquito though. Chiquito, who in the press conference said that he was hoping to continue the trend of different winners every race, and he's doing that quite nicely so far with an 11-second lead over this group here. But a slightly familiar situation we had earlier: Ladamala, Harm, and then Scolzi. We now have Ladamala, Scolzi, and then Harm. Harm having the disadvantage of being the man at the back of this train at the moment, but Scolzi keeps making mistakes, keeps missing apexes, and he's having to use his ERS to help defend, as he does have a fair bit more than both the drivers around him. Ladamella also looking like he's struggling a bit on fuel. Ladamella making a mistake for the final corner there, but it's not lost him too much time. Harm way closer to Scully than he was last lap, but definitely not close enough to make anything happen, I don't think. But as you can see, Ladamella looking to defend his position this time round. Does defend it nicely, just moving slightly off the racing line, but not far enough that Scully can find room on the outside. And Scully just had to stay behind without making anything silly happen. Of course, the lack of DRS that Ladamella has kind of hurting him at the moment, but Scully under a bit of pressure now from Harm. Look how close Harm's able to get at the end of these straights, and it's a bit closer than Scully's able to get on Ladamella at the moment, which is quite surprising considering that it's usually harder to get close to the car ahead the further back you are on the train, but Scully maybe just struggling a bit for pace at the moment. Looks like Ladamella is going to use Tao Piz to get DRS in the main straight here. That could be a clever bit of tactical waiting there from Ladamella to gain DRS in the straight. He does get DRS from the back marker there, so saves himself for another lap as Harmer brakes very late, just about avoiding any contact there with the Ferrari. But you can start to see that this group here losing more and more time to that following group of Rudy, Salt and Rally. So we could go from a 3-man train here to a 6-man train very quick. Of course, Rudy leading that group with those soft tyres. As you say that, I think it was Tao Piz I can see in the background. Salt 8.5 seconds behind Rudy, so they're not really catching this at all. But Rudy looking to get himself involved a bit, and with those fresher, softer tyres, maybe he can do something, but I still have my doubts over whether they'll go to the end in one piece. He's already done about half the life on them and has about 15 laps to go in this race as they cross the line. So 16 laps as they cross the line, sorry. So it will be a tough ask to get to the end, but here we have Scully making the move. He closes DRS early and decides not to go for it, stays behind the runner for now. It's quite risky considering that Harmer had positioned his car in a way that would get him a bit of space if he decided to go for the overtake, but neither driver going for it right now, seemingly quite happy with where they are for the moment. Maybe just waiting for a better opportunity to arise. Maybe a mistake from someone in the train could help them out. Maybe Harm starting to feel a bit of pressure from Rudy as Rudy gets himself inside of that DRS range, so will become the 4th man in this train very soon as they get to the DRS range. But Jim there just making the move on Rally again into that quite unconventional overtaking place at turn 5, but he does get the move done and is up into P8 after his drive through earlier. But again, will those tyres last as Scully moves up into P2? A fairly simple move there on Ladamella, but Harmer not really close enough to capitalise on that and also gain a position. So Ladamella only losing 1 position here and will now have the advantages that Scully had before as the roles are reversed. Probably would want to save a bit of fuel right now if I was Ladamella, in all honesty. Get your fuel back under control and go for an attack a bit later on. But we do have an incident at turn 1. It looks like Jim, and maybe just Jim, but he's actually fallen quite far back. I think maybe he had contact with Dresser losing a bit of front wing there, so he did make that move on Dresser only half a lap ago, or a lap ago now, but they have had contact and Dresser getting damage as a result, so that will really be the end of his race. But now Ladamella under pressure from Harm going for the move into turn 1. He's gone for a huge send. He's completely missed his braking point there. He went for it, looked like he was going to get the position on Scully as well for the second, but he's braked way too late, and now after all that loses the position to Rudy. So Rudy up into 4th place here, Harm down into 5th after that big mistake, just completely missing his braking point into turn 1 and being way too aggressive, I think. Kind of a silly mistake, in all honesty. Yeah, I don't really know what to say, but 27 laps on soft is like 80%. I think it's a bit more than that, considering you get to about 60% after 21 laps. Those softs probably graining quite hard at the end. I don't know. Definitely a risk, really, as all of these guys using all of their ERS now. As Rudy going for the move on Ladamala is given the room, but there is a touch there. Rudy having to concede the position overall, as doesn't quite get the run out of turn 1. Will have another opportunity here though, using all of his ERS now. Ladamala not using any, but having a bit more ERS overall, as Scorsese with the biggest ERS advantage right now. Ladamala still not using this opportunity to save his fuel though. Through these corners here, he could just be saving fuel. Put it in lean and just let it do its thing, you know, but looks like he's under-fueled a bit at a track where you don't get much of an opportunity to save that fuel, and it's maybe looking like it can hurt him towards the end of this race. But at the moment, of course, he will be fine. Now having that DRS 4 tenths behind Scorsese, not really going to be enough to make anything happen. Scorsese using a bit of ERS there, now actually a bit more in line with these other drivers in terms of ERS, so used a lot there for not really much reason, if I'm being honest. But Ladamala definitely looking like he's the most under pressure here. Rudy with those soft tyres all over the back of him. Is the move going to happen into turn 5? It doesn't look like it will. Rudy actually now having more ERS than Ladamala ahead. Ladamala, you could just see about, was derating towards the end of that straight. Rudy saved a bit through the opening part of the lap and is still not using any. He's using it down here. I guess he knows he has more than the car ahead, which is why he feels safe doing that, but I don't really think it was too necessary, and it's just kind of a waste, because he now uses it on the main straight and he's run out as you get towards the DRS detection point. Is of course close enough to Ladamala though to have another chance, as Ladamala now running completely out of ERS. Rudy not with too much either, but making the move work down the inside, and he's moved his way up into P3 onto the podium after that very disappointing qualifying. Rudy has found himself on the podium, and so will now be in the preferred position in this train, I think, really, for the final 10 laps. Maybe going to use those soft rubber tyres to put a bit of pressure on Scorsese while he still can. Maybe look for a P2 in this race. Of course, none of these guys with any penalties at the moment. In fact, a lot of the field keeping it quite clean in terms of penalty. Only Dresser getting a penalty for track limits so far. So, yeah, so far well done to these guys. And, you know, we always prefer to see it all happen on track and penalties not get too involved. But now we have Rudy closing in on Scorsese here. He's not looking for a move just yet. But look how close he got, basically nose to tail through turn 1 for the whole train really, and it just kind of shows how this DRS works around this track, just creating trains everywhere. But now maybe a chance into turn 5. I doubt he'll go for it here. Much safer just to wait for turn 1. Just to wait for turn 1, as you're not really going to be able to pull enough of a gap through these few corners here to make the move stick as you come onto the longer DRS zone coming out of the final corner. So they got about 3-4 tenths separating all of these guys at the moment. Really not much at all, but Rudy still looking in control so far. The man who's been most in control of this race, of course, Chiquito. Just thought I'd bring him up for a second. 12 seconds in the lead, but here we have Rudy now using that DRS to go up the inside of Scorsese. They hit the braking zone and he's already mostly ahead, but he did move across a bit in the braking zone there and tap the front end of Scorsese. Maybe if Scorsese wanted to be annoyed enough by that, he could report it, and the stewards have to look at it. Since nothing too serious happened, I don't think it would be too looked at, but it would definitely be noted the amount of times that I've seen Rudy move under braking so far this race, and maybe have a slight tap with someone. But Scorsese looking like he's struggling a bit out of turn 5 there, maybe allowing Ladamala to get a bit closer than he'd like. Of course, in terms of the DRS situation, it is still advantage to Scorsese, but I don't think that would really matter too much if he finds himself falling away from Rudy, as he has lost 6/10 on this lap. So maybe Scorsese's setup struggling a bit more in dirty air than Ladamala's. Seems to be what we've seen so far in this race. Scorsese looking much better on the straights though, even with the same DRS advantage that the car behind has. He's pulling away, so either using that ERS well, or is maybe running a bit lower wing, would be my thoughts there. It'd be interesting to know that, but I don't think there's any way to find out, so we'll just have to assume. As we have Sector 2 yellows as Dresser gets another 3-second time penalty, and I think he's just spun. Yeah, just spun at the corner there. He's now got all of these front runners coming through. He's going to have to back off for the blue flags and let them all through before the final corner. He does, and we can focus back on this group here fighting for P2, as Rudy getting 8/10 away now, so definitely still expanding that gap and pulling away to break a toe that Scorsese didn't have at 8/10 back, so a bit strange there, but oh well. Of course, as I've said multiple times already this race, 6/10 is the distance that slipstream affects you for. After 6/10 you don't really get any kind of benefit from the slipstream, so a bit unrealistic there from the game. In all honesty, you hear in real life about drivers feeling slipstream from about 6 seconds back, which is why they all try to start their qualifying laps about 6 seconds behind the car in front, to try and get a long distance tow without getting as much dirty air. Dirty air a lot less effective at that range than slipstream is. There's a lock up from Ladamala coming through the final corner. He is able to keep much closer to Scorsese at the moment though. Scorsese not quite as far back as he was last time around, but I think Rudy got DRS. He did get DRS from Talpiz there, so we'll save him for the time being. Now there is the Alfa Romeo coming out the pits and causing a bit of trouble for everyone here. Jonas looking for the fastest lap on those soft tyres. 5 laps remaining, 5.5 laps remaining as it stands, so him and Dressel will be in a bit of a battle over fastest lap for the remaining time in this race. Just half a second everywhere, as Scorsese now outside of the 1 second, right on the edge, coming through this next couple of corners, but maybe looking like if he doesn't use his ERS he'll be in a bit of trouble here, as we have more yellows. I'm not sure who that's for. I think it's Jonas again, but as we come through the detection point, he has just about managed to keep within the gap he needs. But has he used a bit too much ERS to do it? It does look like he has, but he's not under too much threat from Ladamala anyway, so Ladamala, who still is struggling a bit on fuel by the looks of things, will have to do something about it as soon as I say that. Clearly using lean into these corners here to save that fuel, as the fuel light is coming on and off and on and off. It's coming off through the corners and going back on as he gets into power, so he is looking like he's just about equalising that fuel out to where he wants it, fortunately for him. But Scorsese still keeping a decent gap to Rudy here. He's within the 1 second that he needs, but it was a bit of a scare last lap after Rudy got that DRS from Talpiz, that maybe that would be the lap that he'd break the gap for good, but not looking like that's the case. Harmer definitely looking like he's wanting that position from Ladamala. He can see how much Ladamala is struggling with the ERS. He knows that he's got plenty himself, and now he's going to go to the outside. Ladamala moves across. A slight touch there, but right around the outside for Harmer. This time he doesn't outbrake himself, but he does turn in very early, forcing Ladamala across the curbs. And I'm not sure Ladamala will like that one at all. It was a very early point to turn in for Harmer, maybe just trying to cover off the move, but it does seem like he's just turned across the front of Ladamala a bit, and again if it was anything too serious or more serious from the driver's point of view, that might end up going to the stewards. But to be fair, they've been quite good at monitoring and managing. Like, if it doesn't really make too much of a difference, it's no point in reporting it and giving it to the stewards. Terminator, Sculsey in third. Write this down. Yeah, he's had good pace all race. He's taking his chances. He was in second for quite a bit, but Rudy on those soft tyres has come through. He was like 5th or 6th at one point. He's come through all of these guys to get up into second. But I am a bit worried about his tyre condition, in all honesty. Maybe I think Sculsey has a good chance, if he plays it right, to get second place here in this race with 3 or 2.5 laps remaining at now. As look how many laps Rudy's tyres have done. It's 24. I think most guys pitted at 23. As now Sculsey under pressure from Harmer. Harmer, having saved all that ERS, now deciding that this is the time to use it. But maybe used a bit too much getting past Ladamala, because he's not really got that much more than Rudy does. Rudy and Sculsey do at this point. You can see Rudy using all of his available ERS with that blinking red light. Now Sculsey also that blinking red light turning on, and before they get to the end of the straight, Harmer's also got that red light telling us that he is derating. So yeah, I think all of them in general, to be honest, are in the same situation. I think Harmer maybe made a mistake by using so much ERS to get past Ladamala, and now he's at a point where he's got literally none. As he runs into the back of Sculsey there, doesn't look like it's affecting Sculsey too much, but Sculsey closing in on Rudy over the last couple of laps in terms of overall gap, and maybe Harmer about to ruin that for him. Harmer now with the slipstream, with the DRS open, is he going for a move? Sculsey covers off the inside, Harmer going round the outside. He just about makes it work. There's a small touch there, I think, but better momentum there for Sculsey as he goes round the outside of the long right-hander, and there's a big moment there mid-corner for Harm, and that puts him fully behind Sculsey, but has lost both drivers' time to Rudy in front, and this could be trouble if Rudy gets outside of that 1 second. But Ladamala now smells blood as they come through to start the final lap of this race. Who's going to end up on top? It looks like Rudy might be fairly comfortable there in P2, but his tyres must be hurting. Maybe a puncture on the final lap could ruin his race. Harm going for it on the final lap, and big send there on Sculsey, and Ladamala just sat behind. I think he was quite happy with his position. There's a big send. I say that Ladamala's come up the inside, and what's going on? Sculsey's back through into what is the front of this train, so P3 is Rudy now cleared them by a long way. But it looked like Ladamala went for the big send after getting through on Sculsey after Harmer's big send on Sculsey, and it's now ended up Ladamala, I think, has had a moment and turned round because he's quite far behind. But Harm and Sculsey have stayed in the same position. Well, as Chiquito wins this race, it's going to be by a long way, over 10 seconds to Rudy. Rudy's going to cross the line in second and Sculsey in third, but Harmer does have a penalty. Is Ladamala going to be able to get close enough to do anything with that penalty? I don't think he will. Is he cross the line? No, he won't. And it's going to be Rally quite a way behind to finish in P6 with Mr. Salt in his DRS to the end, but only 7th for him. Jim 30 seconds behind in 8th place. Fresh Softs going for the fastest lap of the race. Is he going to get it though, is the question. Jonas does get fastest lap there at the end. A 58.8 is the time to beat, as Dresser and Jonas have completed the race. Talpiz now also finishing. Jim, let's see, is he going to beat the time he needs to? No, he doesn't look like he does, so no fast lap there. Jonas finishing with the fastest lap, but what a crazy final lap that was. I don't think that was clean from anyone, in all honesty. That wasn't for the lead, Terminator. The leads was Chiquito, checked out on lap 1, and we never saw him again, except for that one safety car. So yeah, big race there for Chiquito. He said exactly what he set out to do and became the 3rd different winner in 3 races here in Tier 1, and the action really was all for the other places on the podium, second, third, fourth and fifth towards the end there, all up for contention. Rudy getting that P2 in the end. Maybe a couple of the drivers will have something to say about his interesting movement under braking, but for now he has claimed P2. P3 for Scolzi after all that chaos in the final lap. I don't think he was at fault for any of it particularly, so he will most likely hold on to that P3. But Harmer and Ladamala, I'm sure, won't be too happy about how that final lap went, with all the sends and going off track and not the cleanest driving I've ever seen. Rally and Salt making it P6 and 7 for the Danes, with Jim P8, P9 going to Dresser, and Jonas, our final finisher, in P10. Talpiz did not start, and the rest, Daniel, Sepsky, Joe, the other two who I've forgotten, did not finish after either manually retiring early on or the big crashes that we saw bringing out the VSCs both times today. I really don't know what to say about that race. It was kind of boring for most of it. You know, we had a solid idea of where everyone was. I got to give a shout out to Rudy there for, after that not so great qualifying, able to make that medium soft strategy work and making the softs go so long in general. Very good drive from him today. Definitely my drive of the day, if not Chiquito. I think Chiquito's definitely got to be in with the shout out drive of the day. He absolutely bulletproof all race. Did not make a single error that we saw. I mean, he just didn't. You just didn't look at Chiquito all race. He was just in the lead, and the lead was getting bigger all the time, and in the end was over 10 seconds. So not much to say about him, but definitely a contender for driver of the day, in my opinion at least. Rudy, the other big contender for that one. Ladamala and Harmer, as well as Scolzi, probably got something to say about that final. In fact, what I'll do is I'll go on Discord. I'll look to see if anyone's got an opinion on that one, as I'm sure they do. Scolzi not too happy with Harmer or Ladamala. Ladamala apologising. Harmer saying that was pretty bad. Yeah, Erminator with the Scolzi third, write this down. And Harman just saying that he missed his braking point, not for the first time in this race, to be honest. Yeah, so yeah, Harmer just, I don't know, maybe we'll see this in the stewards room, maybe not, probably not. It seems like they're both probably not going to report it. Because I feel like if they report one, the other one's going to report them back, and then they're just going to kind of they're just going to either both get penalties or neither get penalties, and it will just be a bit of a mess. But Rudy has got reported actually by Jonah for an early incident, so maybe this could all change. Maybe this order isn't so permanent. But yeah, that's going to be it from me today. In all honesty, we'll have to pick this one up next week and see what's gone on. Yeah, so thank you all for coming. We had quite a good attendance on this race compared to last week. So yeah, thank you all for that. It's very much appreciated. I hope you all enjoyed this race. It wasn't the most exciting. I still stand by the fact that a normal Bahrain is better in terms of overall action. It just is, really. But yeah, there will be, obviously, Sunday at 8 PM. We'll have more races here in Bahrain short if you want to go check those out. I think that's tier 3 and 5. and the rest of the tier all had their race at the same time as we did today. But there is, of course, the Sprint League, which happens on a Tuesday. We'll have rounds 5 and 6 of that on Tuesday at 8 p.m. UK time. So make sure to check that one out. It's a 25% race with one-shot quali in realistic performance cars, the fastest drivers being in the slower cars and the slowest drivers being in the faster cars to spice things up a bit. So definitely worth checking out. We've had a crazy couple of weeks so far in Sprint League, and I would definitely recommend that one to you. So yeah, once again, thank you all for coming. That's going to be the end of the stream. So hope you all enjoyed it, and have a nice evening. I say that, it's very late to be saying that, but anyway.